Thank you, Brian, for the invite to speak at this. So for most B2B companies, you guys spend a lot of time thinking about how to generate traffic, like more ads, more content, more SEO. But the reality is that most websites, you guys have a ton of potential buyers visiting them every day. The problem is that most of these people are effectively invisible unless they fill out a form. So today I want to talk about how modern visitor identification works, what's actually realistic, and how teams are using HubSpot, how they can turn previously anonymous traffic into actionable sales opportunities. So a little bit about me. I'm Rob Clark. My background's in web development. I spent 20 some years designing and building bespoke websites with a specialization in SEO. One of the biggest pain points that I saw in customers was really surrounding, say, analytics. So they'd be in Google Analytics and I'd hear them reach out and be like, I had 100 people on the site today and only a few of them filled out the form. Who was everybody else? Yeah, no idea. They're anonymous. But at our B2B, where I am, we've actually solved that problem. Now, I may be the head of AI at our B2B, but I still think humans come first. So not crazy bullish like you see a ton of people on AI. I am, but not like that. Still human first approach. So there's going to be a lot of that in here. So yeah, like I said, how often are you left staring at your Google Analytics and, cursing the fact that so many people have been on your site, but only a small portion of them contacted you? If you're anything like me, probably a lot more than you want to admit. So we'll start with the simple reality. 95 to 98% of your visitors probably don't fill out a form or contact you. That means your CRM's only seeing like a tiny fraction of the people that are actually like researching your product. So at the same time, we know that modern buyers do a huge amount of research before they even talk to sales. That same way, I will go do all my research and due diligence before I contact anybody. Industry research shows that I'm not alone. 70% of people are going to do their research process, do their own vetting before they reach out. So that means most of the buying is actually happening completely outside of your CRM and your sales team. People are evaluating pricing, reading documentation, comparing solutions, and your teams don't have any visibility really into any of that. So that's where our B2B comes in. We do website visitor de-anonymization. We ID not only your US traffic to a person level, but also to a company level if we can't figure out who the person was, and also do company level stuff for your global visitors. So like I said, there's a huge hidden pipeline problem. Your website analytics tell you things like, sessions, page views, bounce rates, what pages are popular on your site, what pages have bounce issues, how many people go where. But most of those metrics are anonymous. And on the sales side and the CRM and your sales team, they care about the companies, the people, and the intent signals. That's the big one. And the problem is that there's a missing layer connecting those two worlds. So the traffic's happening, intent is happening, but there's no correlation between the two. And it's not connected to the pipeline. And that's where visitor identification technology comes in. It helps bridge that gap. So what does de-anonymization actually mean? At a basic level, it's about turning anonymous website activity into identifiable information about companies and people actually behind that activity. Modern systems like ours, we use a combination of IP intelligence, identity graphs, first and third-party cookies, enrichment databases, and all kinds of other secret sauce that goes into it to figure out who the person was. So instead of your analytics going, somebody from Boston viewed your pricing page, we'll actually tell you, Captain Smith, VP of Forecasting and Demand at Prestige Worldwide. She viewed a dozen pages on your site over 2 different days, and she's also an ICP match. Here's her email address. Here's her LinkedIn. Here's a bunch of company information. Now, suddenly that website activity becomes something that your sales team can actually act on. So you don't have that anonymous part. There is a lot of hype around the capabilities of the software. It's really important to be clear about what the tech can and can't do. We're really forthcoming about what we can do and what we can't. So like I said, we're always upfront about that at our B2B, and we really want to drive home what the tech, not just our tech, the technology in general, whether somebody else says it can do it or not, this is what it can do. For your US-based traffic, that's where we really shine. We can identify about 40 to 45% of your US traffic to a person. We'll tell you it was Rob from our B2B. For those that we can't ID to a person, we'll circle back and at least try and figure out what company they worked at, someone at our B2B. That's going to be about 30 to 35% of your traffic. So all told, will resolve 70 to 80% of your traffic to a person, or 70 to 80% of your US traffic will tell you something about it. It works really well for global traffic, so outside the US, Canada, Europe, Australia, Asia, anywhere. Um, will ID, again, 30 to 35% of that traffic to a company level, somebody at Intercom. It's not great for, VPNs, proxies, virtual desktops. We actually straight up don't bother trying to ID people using any of those because they're masking who they are. We don't want to run the risk of it being somebody in Europe masking and having a US IP, and then we come up and say who they are, and then there's GDPR issues and all that stuff. It's not a game we don't want to play, or it's not a game we want to play. It's not a game you don't, or that you want to play. We don't. It's not great for people that have strict privacy browsers because they don't have info on there, and it's not awesome for low traffic websites. It'll still do the same numbers, 70 to 80% of your traffic. But if you have super, super low traffic, you've got to, you know, manage your expectations. This whole thing isn't magic. We don't sell it as magic, but for the visitors, it does identify you're getting people who are actively on your site right now that you'd otherwise never know existed. The real value here isn't just knowing who's on the site, it's about understanding those intent signals as well. So think about what happens on B2B websites. People visit the site, they hit your pricing page, they hit your integrations page, some documentation, some case studies. So what does this actually look like in practice? It's like this. Your website's already collecting those intent signals every day. Problem is that without an identification product like ours, those signals are completely anonymous. You can see in your analytics that somebody visited your pricing page 3 times, but you don't know who it is. We changed that. So now you can see, Catherine Smith, she visited, or that a co-founder was digging through your API docs, which tells you something very specific about where they are in their evaluation and what their intentions are. Or you can see that someone's been back multiple days in a row, which is one of the strongest intent signals that you can get. Or you see, Melinda Lynn from from a company hit your site, and then 2 days later, somebody else from the same company comes in and looks at the same stuff. Well, you can make some strong assumptions based on that Melinda was sharing the info with her teammates, and they went and checked you out, and there's a lot of interest within their circle. So that's the core of what we mean by buying intent. And the people who are already showing up, already interested, and already in research mode. You just really haven't been able to fully act on it until now. So how does this tie in with HubSpot and your world? So if you wanted to operationalize, say, our ID stuff, our identification happens in real time. So as we ID somebody, it's going to show up in our dashboard and tell you exactly who it was. But not only that, we're going to send it to whatever integrations you have connected in real time. So once the visitor is ID'd, obviously the next step is operationalizing it. HubSpot users, the team or the flow usually looks a little bit like this. Visitor comes to the site, we ID the person or company. The contact and company record gets created and sent to HubSpot right away. The activity gets logged, all the page views, you can see exactly where they went. Every page view goes to HubSpot as well. And you set up a workflow to handle what you want to do with it. Is it somebody that's new to you? Is it somebody that's in a company that's already talking to your sales team, and set up flows to route it to the right people? So you make sure that info gets sent to the sales team the right way. Is it a Slack alert? Is it a HubSpot task? Is it something that goes into an SDR queue? Completely new visitor, does it go off to the SDR to do their thing? But now the sales team has context. So instead of doing like generic cold outreach, you can reference the intent signal. Something like, hey, I saw your team exploring the API documentation. Happy to answer any questions. That little bit of small context completely changes how the outreach is received. Just turns it into a warm connection. And if you want to implement this effectively, there's, a few key steps. Install the snippet on your site, define your ICP, and then again, not every visitor's somebody that matters. People just hit your site through Google searches or a misclick on an ad or a link. You really want to find people that match your ICP, find people that have repeat visits, come back multiple times. So focus on the accounts that match your target market and define those like key intent triggers. Did they visit the pricing page, integrations page, multiple visits? And then again, fourth, route those to the right people at the right time. And then lastly is actually aligning with about what the sales messaging is. And that's one of the biggest questions we get from our users. And we're at 42,000 accounts right now. And the most common question we get is, now what? What do I say? What do I do? And there's some pretty clear answers. Most of them are common sense. Funny thing about common sense is, it's not that common. As far as like messaging goes, the goal is to sound helpful and not creepy. So this is probably the most important practical slide that I'm going to mention. It's because having the data is only half of it. How you use it determines whether it works or blows up in your face. You'll see in the right-hand column there, the wrong column. It's not wrong because the information's wrong. It's wrong because it leads with surveillance. It's creepy. I saw that you personally visited our pricing page 3 times yesterday at 2:14 p.m. It says that's the same as somebody lurking in your bushes. It's accurate, but no, that creates an immediate trust problem and most people will disengage. Or it's by all means go ahead, but you end up selling our product and not yours because they're going to immediately ask, well, how'd you know that? And then you start selling us. That left-hand column, exact same underlying data, but it frames it around intent. It looks like your team spent some time on our pricing page. That's an opening. It's not an accusation. It gives the prospect a natural way to engage without feeling exposed. And again, subtle difference in the wording and significant outcome. Rule of thumb, reference what they're interested in, not the fact that you tracked them. Again, just I saw that there was a 5-minute warning there. We'll kind of power through the last slide here. So how do you measure the ROI? Look at the meetings booked from the identified traffic, look at the pipeline that's generated from it, conversation rate. You're going to get higher reply rates, warmer conversations, and shorter sales cycles because you're contacting people about what they're already looking at, and you can hit them contextually, which is super powerful. Again, main takeaways is most buying intent happens on your website. It's invisible today. De-anonymization reveals a portion of that hidden demand. And again, the real value comes from sales acting on intent quickly. And the companies that are winning right now are the ones that aren't just generating more traffic, they're identifying and acting on that traffic that they already have. That's it in a nutshell. That's the end of my little spiel about how to kind of leverage de-anonymization and intent signals for your sales cycle and HubSpot and stuff. Wouldn't be a sales thing without going, hey, you can get started at our B2B for free. You get a 7-day free trial by signing up. No credit card required. I 100% promise you don't have to put one in. At the end of the trial, subscribe, don't subscribe, totally up to you. But if you do subscribe, there's a coupon code, Profoundly15. We'll give you 15% off your first 3 months. But again, free trial will give you all access, 7 days to kick the tires, see who's on your site, see what you can do with it, and all that stuff.